In this video, we will be replacing the ABS pump and ABS module in this 2001 Ford F150. When gently depressing the brake pedal in this vehicle, the brake pedal will sink all the way to the floor. If you abruptly press the brake pedal, it will not do that, and the vehicle will come to a stop as it should. We first need to pop the hood to gain access to the engine bay. Taking a look inside the engine bay, we need to identify the location of the air filter housing assembly and the location of the brake master cylinder. Between these two components, if we look directly down, we will see our ABS pump and module. Because these parts cost $800 to $1,000, I went to the salvage yard and found a similar vehicle and pulled this one off of there. It cost me about $50, but there's no guarantee that this one works, so I did get the warranty with it. The module itself is the uppermost portion of this unit. In the center, we have the pump, and at the base, we have the mounting bracket. We have a wiring harness on the back portion of this unit, and on the front portion, we have 5 brake lines that enter the pump. To prep this, I'm going to begin by spraying Amsoil's metal protector on each of the fittings. We have 4 ports that use an 11mm wrench, and we have 1 port that uses a 13mm wrench. Now, it is absolutely critical that you use a tubing wrench of the exact size when doing this, or you'll risk damaging the component. Additionally, make sure you have thoroughly lubricated each part with a good penetrating oil. Located near the bottom of the inlet ports, we can see 2 dust boots. If we use a flathead screwdriver and very gently remove those dust boots, we can see that there are a couple holes. These are important to note as we test our existing component to see if in fact the ABS pump and module is the problem for this sinking brake pedal. By installing a thin screwdriver in this port where the dust boot was and slowly depressing the brake pedal, if the screwdriver moves, the ABS pump has failed. You can try this on both ports underneath each dust boot. The other side of this pump, the screwdriver does not move. However, since the first side did move, the ABS pump has failed and needs replaced. For now, we will keep those in place. Located on the opposite side of those inlet ports, we have a wiring harness that is connected up to our ABS module. We need to locate the wire harness release, which is located off to one side. This will pull out and allow us to disconnect that wiring harness. Since Amsoil's metal protector can be used as an electrical cleaner, I'm going to apply just a little bit to each of the contacts at my connection point, and this will allow me to clean off each of these contact points. To start this process of switching out this component, we are going to get the air filter housing assembly out of the way so that we can have better access to our ABS module and pump. There are a couple wiring harnesses to disconnect so that we can swing this out of the way. We have our air intake sensor wiring harness as well as our mass airflow sensor wiring harness. We can then loosen up our clamp and get that out of the way. At the base of our actual air filter housing, there are a couple studs that we need to lift up on the housing to pop them out of there. And then towards the back of the housing, there are a couple small tabs that we need to release so that the housing pops off. At this point, we have fairly decent access to our unit. Many times people will also remove the master cylinder to provide additional access. I'm going to try this without moving the master cylinder just to see if I can get in there with all of my tools and switch this out. The first piece I will remove is the wiring harness. Next, I'll spray all of my brake lines with Amsoil's metal protector. I can then go through the process of loosening each of my brake lines at each inlet port. Again, you want to make sure you are using a tubing wrench of the exact size. As you go through the process of loosening this, you will want to make sure there is a drip pan underneath the area that you're working. We are loosening up brake lines that are full of brake fluid, and that will go all the way down to the ground. As you loosen these up, you will notice that the brake fluid will continue to drip as the master cylinder flows into this unit. Given that the master cylinder sits higher than this unit, gravity will pull all of that brake fluid out. Make sure you top off the master cylinder periodically. Next, we have 3 mounting bolts that hold our bracket in place. After removing our mounting bolts, we can remove the unit from the vehicle. I like to take a look at my new unit versus my old unit just to make sure everything looks correct. We can take our new unit and install that into the vehicle. The installation process is done in the reverse order as the removal. Make sure all of the mounting bolts, brake lines, and wiring harnesses get connected back up. Because we opened up our brake lines, we have introduced air into the system. We're going to manually be bleeding this ABS pump, as well as we're going to go through at the end and bleed all of the brakes through the calipers. To perform this operation, I have one person inside of the vehicle, and I am outside of the vehicle with a wrench on the brake line. As the person inside of the vehicle presses down on the brake pedal, I loosen the brake line, allowing air and brake fluid to come out of that opening. Before the person in the vehicle has pressed the brake pedal all the way down, I will tighten the fitting back up. This procedure will be completed for each brake line. As you do this, you will also want to watch the master cylinder reservoir and ensure that it is topped off. We then want to connect up everything else. Putting the air filter housing back on proved to be especially difficult, but I was able to get it back on. We can reconnect all of the wiring harnesses, re-tighten all of our connection points, tighten our clamp, and double check the master cylinder reservoir and ensure that it is topped off. Also, don't forget to bleed the brakes at each wheel.